For WWE 2K23, there was a recent block in patch 1.21, and 2K updated their terms of service and everything, outlining exactly what they were talking about in terms of the block. This was to not only do with blocking modded content, but this was also to deal with hacking, copyrighted issues, and more. But there is a lot to clarify here, and I've got some really great feedback to share with you. We need to clarify some of the questions that have been circulating even on this channel. Questions like, what about the content that's already up on community creations before the patch? Is that staying? Is it going to be taken down? Is this affecting all consoles or just PC or both? I reached out to What's the Status to get some clarification. And 2K23 mods are okay according to him. The mod blocker only affects PC players OS. Anyone uploading from console is fine. As for the hidden content, the things we would normally see from Status and others like hidden crowd signs, the hidden chants, motions, things of that nature, all of that My Faction content that we sometimes see pop up in community creations, it seems to be okay. And the content damage is still there for certain My Faction models. Status also followed up because he was getting a lot of questions from dummies like me and others in the community asking about what's going on here. Status posted this saying, since I've gotten a few questions, the mod blocker that was added for 2K23 patch 1.21 only affects PC players. Anyone uploading double hair cause, invisible headpieces, or editable superstars from console is fine. So update your game and do as you always did. I don't think they will ban anyone for uploading these things, but do it at your own risk. Hope that clears up some confusion. It's one of the questions I had too, was how is this going to impact people that are modifying, altering existing superstars in the game? And like Status said, it's using at your own risk. The other thing that I did ask as a follow-up was with regards to like logos, because if you look at the document updated by 2K, it talks about how they will stop anybody from uploading copyrighted content such as images, logos, etc. And that immediately got me thinking of things like, well, what about doing a custom arena with the AEW logo? What about doing the old WWF logo? Are we gonna all of a sudden see a bunch of bans and strikes and so on for people using that on their accounts in community creations? Doesn't seem to be the focus here. While that is an issue, and while technically I guess that's infringing on copyrights because you're uploading copyrighted content like an AEW logo, it would get really, really difficult in my opinion for 2K to police this, to shut down individual users for using an AEW logo for a custom arena. It seems trivial and it doesn't seem like the best use of anyone's time. I think what they are looking at is really big offenders, really big things like the My Faction models being circulated from PC to console, being uploaded that way, and how it's taking away from their games as service live model as it's being presented in My Faction. By the way, another little follow-up with this, I don't think that the logos are necessarily going to be the biggest crux, because if you look at community creations on any given day, there's a lot of offensive stuff posted on there. There's just lots of boobs. Just a lot. Like I like a good boob, but it's too much. So I think that if they are going to be focusing and doubling down on making sure that the security and everything within community creations, what's being posted there is up to code, up to snuff, and it's not breaking any of the copyright infringements or any of the rules that they have set up with their code of conduct, I would maybe suggest to 2K that you take a look at the images section on any given day and work towards the really, really nasty stuff that's posted there. And let's not worry so much about a AEW logo, for example. But for me, I needed to get more insight into what's going on, how this is impacting the modding community specifically, and answering more questions, because the last video we did talking about when this whole block with the patch came out, a lot of people were talking about how this is bad for modders, this is bad for the community, 2K is screwing over players. I wanted to deep dive better and have a better understanding of how this is impacting modders, because I'm not a modder and I'm not familiar enough with the community and how it all works. So I spoke directly with Ty, who is the owner and community manager of Pro Wrestling Mods. Shout out to Ty, he was a great guy and he was actually willing to give me a little bit more insight into all of this. Ty spoke to me directly and I wanted to summarize this and get some of his feedback and 2 cents in here. He talked about how they have to currently downgrade back to the 1.2 patch. The game still functions as normal, including online. The only negative is that if you update your save to 1.21, going back corrupts it. As far as the 1.21 EXE, there was a significant amount of different security measures added. Full-on encryption and validation checks were the normal way of hex patching the EXE to enable more cake files to read will no longer be a thing. Cheat engine as it stands will not work with the new security measures in place. So this is dealing specifically on the PC side and how it's impacting the modding community. And there's a big difference also when we speak about those that are hacking the game and the modding community. The modding community are the ones that are making the game better and more enjoyable for all of us players from PC to console, where they're giving us these models into the game that are giving better shelf life to the game late into the season, where players want to go back to see what's exciting and new on community creations. And just within Pro Wrestling Mods itself, on the PC side, they do phenomenal work there. And if you're ever interested in getting onto the PC and looking at the mods that are available, it's incredible what they do. And that is a big difference between when we are looking at hackers, those that are altering the actual game, that are trying to get cheats, that are trying to get unfair advantages. Those things need to be blocked, in my opinion. The modding community is the one that they should be supporting more from the 2K side. And while we talk about this, the big question I had for Ty was going to be with, well, what's the relationship like with the modding community and the 2K developers themselves? Ty spoke on this and said, as for the relationship between 2K developers and the modding community, Ty did point out to me that there was a working positive and supportive relationship with the WWE 2K developers. From his perspective, they've had quite a few discussions where he, Ty, was told there are no active issues with modding. They just couldn't give official support, as well as them being aware of Pro Wrestling Mods as they have granted us media code of the game the last 2 years. There's been a good working relationship with the devs and the modding community for several years now. So when this block and the bans were coming into place just the other day with the latest patch, the modding community took it hard because they've always had a good working relationship, and this seemed like a strange move. Now, according to Ty from Pro Wrestling Mods, he explained that the devs are huge fans and are regular visitors of the site and love quite a few of the specific creators that are in there. It was also said that the developers handle the actual game assets, while another department actually bundles the game and its EXE for it to ship. So when it comes to the security and all of that, they're usually in the dark about that, meaning the devs they're not involved in that aspect. And this is what I started to think just myself, was this seemed like an odd move to put out such a large push against the PC, the modding community, for players, with the bans, with the blocking of the community creations that we would see, and doubling down on it. It seemed like an odd move to me, because I had heard just anecdotally in the past that the devs and the modders seem by all accounts to get along fairly well. And it started getting me to speculate here, just on my end, that this is not a move by the devs. This is a move from some group beyond the devs, higher up within 2K, the security team, etc., legal, putting these barriers in place and these blocks in place. And that's where it's important to look at all sides, right? And not just double down and say the 2K devs are terrible, they're awful, etc. We don't know that that's necessarily the case. By all accounts, it's not really the devs that are looking into doing this. It looks like it's up to other divisions, other teams within 2K at a larger scale that are putting these things in place. So that brings us to 2K24 and microtransactions. My own personal thoughts are this: we see a continued push even this late in the game's life cycle for new My Faction content drops, even more so than we saw in 22. And this is good for anybody that likes My Faction. I don't have the stats or the numbers to show how many active users are in there playing, buying, using virtual currency, unlocking packs and grinding it out, but there are some players that do enjoy the mode. And for those that wish they get more fixes, more regular updates to the base game, the core game, I'm totally with you. I think players have voiced several issues stemming from universe to online community creations and more that need fixing to this day. Keep in mind too, the My Faction team is a separate team from the developers and everyone else that's producing that content and working with that mode. And so because of that, they don't necessarily care one way or another if players don't like the feature. They have a plan. They have to hit certain numbers. They have to hit so much revenue targets quarterly, annually within this mode to keep it going. They need to market the mode. I'm not saying that that's what I want to see. I want to see 2K posting on social media about the next universe mode update, the next big patch that they're bringing out for players, the fixes for online, the additional components and updates, logos, increases, like content they're doing for community creations. That's what I want to see. I don't need more My Faction card drops of The Miz is coming out with a basketball jersey. With this late 2K23 blocker update, my belief is this: 2K24 is going to double down on the microtransaction aspect and My Faction mode. I think they're going to follow more the playbook of NBA 2K's model, and I think they release a ton of new My Faction content. But here's my hope spot with all of this. Just looking at how everything is unfolding this late into the year, I think that 2K is going to not only double down My Faction, but I think that we're going to see changes to that mode going into 2K24. This is the third installment of this mode coming into the 2K series for WWE, and with the patch, with the blocks that they have put in place already, where they're stopping people from uploading content, the My Faction models and so on, to community creations, I have a suspicion that what we're going to see is in 2K24, they're going to allow the My Faction models to be available offline. This is my guess. And I say that because of the recent blocks, because they are not allowing stuff to be uploaded. So here's what I think they could end up doing. You play My Faction, and you go through and you grind it out, or you use the virtual currency to buy the specific model, and you unlock the Rock 98, for example. The entrance, the attire, the Titantron, the music, that exclusive model piece of content right there. Now, through all of the virtual currency and the cards and the random picks, that may end up costing you like 15-20 bucks to do it, or it's free because you grinded it out for several hours. It's money versus time. But then I think that what they do is they make the Rock 98 available. Little pop-up shows up to say, congratulations, you unlocked the Rock 98. He is now playable offline in universe mode, My GM, and exhibition, but not available through online play and through community creations because of the blocks they put in place, where they're cracking down on that, and they crack down more on people like what's the status for uploading specific models from My Faction. They put in the flags and the blockers there saying that it's content damage and they can't do that. I think they do more of that so that players will be able to get the Rock 98 offline, play them, enjoy them on their game, but they will not be allowed and not be able to even put any of the parts or the model up on community creations. If they do this way, 2K wins because players are playing the microtransaction free-to-play model of My Faction, and they're not seeing exclusive stuff getting posted to everyone to just download when they want to make money off of it. So from a business perspective, this kind of solves their problem of, we want to drive people to this mode, to this free to play, so that they're putting in more time, they're engaging with the game, and they're ultimately spending more money on this mode to get these specific things. But if 2K does this model, this can give players, a large portion of players, what they have been looking for and what they have been asking for, to be able to get these My Faction models playable offline. The ability to play these models in their game, in universe mode, in My GM at any time, either by grinding it out or buying it with virtual currency. Would it be better if 2K just put the models for free, put it in regular season pass DLC content, just made them regularly available to just purchase or patch them into the game? Absolutely. But I'm looking at how things have unfolded and where we're at with this game series and the direction that 2K as a whole takes with a lot of their franchises like NBA 2K. I think it's inevitable. Players already spend $70 to $140 to $180 if you're in Canada for the Icon edition of the game, where you're supposed to get everything. But unfortunately, I think they're moving the wrestling game series more in the service-based model in the future. Is that what I want? No. I want to pay one price for my game. I want to enjoy the whole thing, get everything I want to experience right there. I want community creations to be flourishing, thriving. I want the modding community to be doing well. I want everyone to get what they wanted. But unfortunately, I think from the business side, from Take-Two side, this is probably the direction they will go. But if 2K goes down this path next year, it might be the best case scenario we have, where we unlock the My Faction character and play everywhere, but we just can't upload online. But here's the scenario that I don't like and that I'm scared that they could do, and I kind of feel like it's either this or it's either this. My Faction continues like it is this year. There's no real changes. everything stays locked within the mode. No offline option is made, more blocks and more security for community creations, and players get limited experience, and it hurts the core community that engages the most. That's one of my biggest fears going into next year. But I need to know your thoughts on all of this, so please comment below. What do you think of this entire situation that's going on? If you guys want more information regarding the patch 1.21, click this video right here because it's the initial breakdown, everything that went down with it. See ya.